It's a 300-pound police robot that looks like R2-D2 that can detect abnormal noise and temperature change or known criminals. It will alert local authorities. Malls, sporting arenas, communities everywhere is getting robots.
No way. It kinda looks like a 𝗗𝗶𝗱 from Doctor Who.
The all-seeing mobile robots will wirelessly connect to a centralized data server where authorities will have access to big data, making it possible to recognize faces, license plates, and other suspicious anomalies. You know, big data. Your Facebook, Tinder, conversations, banking history, credit purchase history.
That sounds like a 𝗗𝗶𝗱 to me.
Have you ever heard of Stingray technology or Hailstorm?
No.
Boy, you need to tune into Kriston T. Harris. That's how I feed my brain.
I can't hear my audio.
Emergency in the city, and so we march to the sea, pretending to hear every whisper. All the men are filled with greed. You hear the words before they are spoken. We rise and fall, just like the tides of the ocean, trying to make us devils, but we said we found our God. Curse the heavens falls down. The children of the world die without a sound. As the winds crash down, we pray to God. Can you take us down, 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 down. Live a peaceful life to die another day. He took our sons away. It wasn't meant to be. They took a spell to break the ice. They will fight as the unseen. Battle better than machine. After all, it's just a dream. They fear the ghost and cast aside the candle stains they couldn't hide. The ghost has silence, flaws that keep. After all, it's just a dream.
And because of this administration, we are tonight a world divided. We are a nation becalmed. We have lost the brisk pace of diversity and the genius of individual creativity. We are plodding along at a pace set by centralized planning, red tape, rules without responsibility, and regimentation without recourse.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous?
To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan.
Promised as being one of the most effective treatments for AIDS and cancer in history. Now it's gone, and one of the most respected research facilities in the country is being blamed.
Participation in a process that validates an establishment that never meaningfully changes. What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than two sides to every issue, but the two parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners?
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
There's also a very top secret, this substance, it's called adrenochrome, and just the very existence of it's been kept very secret by these people. If you time things just perfectly right, as the person is being sacrificed, you can stick a needle here at the base of the skull, and if you know what you're doing and the timing is correct, you can extract adrenochrome, which is a very valuable drug, natural drug, on the Illuminati's black market. 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 The Illuminati's black market.
Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harrison. Welcome to The Resistance. We are broadcasting live on groundzeroplus.com. You can catch the audio there. If you just want to stream the audio, if you want to see this beautiful face, you can find it on Facebook as well as rumble.com/The Rundown Live. You can find The Rundown Live on Twitter. Follow me, Kriston T. Harris, and we're going to bring you news and information that you guys will not hear anywhere else. Man, we have a great show lined up and some interesting things I found in the Jeffrey Epstein files. And as you could see, bringing us in, that was a very old, very old presentation. I think that was from the 80s, right? That is maybe 90s. Did you see like the VHS tape, back in the day when you used to have like basically what looks like a pro camera these days? All the home cameras were gigantic. Like you almost needed like a tripod just to use it. And they left that grainy film-like look. And that was Fritz Springmeier. Love him or hate him, it's interesting to see what he had to say. And sometimes I have to ask myself, how the hell did he know that stuff? Was he an MK Ultra abusee himself? Is he a victim of the government society? I'm not quite sure. But Fritz Springmeier, who's an interesting individual, and by the way, Jordan Maxwell, Fritz Springmeier, they had some beef. And I don't want to get into the drama and all that stuff, but it's important to mention that a lot of what Fritz mentioned and talked about at times, he borrowed from Jordan Maxwell. Now, Fritz Springmeier did his own research. He did this like reverse hypnosis on MK Ultra, OTO, Luciferian satanic cult members who then broke down all of these things. And what's interesting is when we're diving into the Epstein files, we're finding them trying to identify like a social type. So I guess the best way to describe it, they're identifying future victims. We're going to get into like the idea of what this is all for and why I'm talking about this. So I used to work retail, and this is all important, right? It's going to all come together. And when I did retail, the company I work for, and by the way, is number one in the company. I was like the best at sales. There's nobody better at selling things than Kriston T. Harris, although I know that there's a lot of people doing better than me doing it. But there is this idea that when you identify somebody and you ask appropriate questions, they fit into certain categories, right? Jan is a single Caucasian female. She lives in the city, in the suburbs, and she has a husband that works a normal 9-to-5 job. You got Susie, who is displaced, doesn't have a husband. She does a lot more herself, and she might be interested in these types of products. Basically segregating your customer base and identifying who they are, what type of person they are, understanding what they might need, and that's trying to find the unique unknown needs so you can add additional objects. But the thing is, they're doing these identification breakdowns and these classes, I think, on children, where they're trying to identify which suspect can be fit into this MK Ultra program and abused. Okay? And to me, that whole idea is crazy. It's crazy because if you're going to hunt children, that's how you're going to do it. So I was digging last night and, my heart hurts just reading all this stuff. It's like, holy crap. Can it get any worse? Can it get any more interesting? Like a lot of it's all allegations. We're providing a lot of information about this, but there was some documents, some text messages that went back and forth that the FBI cataloged in the Epstein files. And it has to deal with adrenochrome. Somebody gave permission to an individual to give her story to the FBI. We're going to go ahead and pull this up. By the way, Do you guys believe that there's a substance called adrenochrome? And what is adrenochrome? Okay, first of all, let's go ahead and dive into this article. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. We'll enlarge it so you guys, if you're on the cell phone, you can really see the details here. And what we have is a conversation between two individuals. One of them seems to be a victim of sorts, and she is explaining to somebody else that they have this substance that they call adrenochrome. And the first time, like I said, I heard it was probably Fritz Springmeier coming around to the church in the 1980s or 90s, my little small church, a Savior Assembly. Then they take offerings for the guy, and that's kind of how they make their living. And they go from church to church, educating people about secret societies, the cult, and more. And as you know, Fritz Springmeier has written multiple books on MK Ultra, the Illuminati formula, Wise as Serpents, and of course the one that the CIA cataloged, the Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Hence why I keep playing that, because the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, that's the objective or the business aspect of the Bavarian Illuminati's modern day version, or, the evolution of what it has now become, is these groups, the Bilderberg Group. All of this stems from the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, secretive organizations that 30 years ago, if you said there's a Council of Foreign Relations, they would look at you crazy, like you trying to explain Bohemian Grove to someone. Although most people today might be like, oh yeah, Bohemian Grove, that's a real thing. Anyways, as we put this on the screen, I want to mention that if you have children and you're listening to this broadcast, this may not be the broadcast for them. Feel free to put them in a different room, because we're going to be talking about allegations. And these allegations are interesting. Whether or not they are true, this is the truth, I don't know. Again, everything in these Epstein files is just data, right? What are the elites really doing? Are they doing what we've been told, and all these whistleblowers or people who have educated people over the years really said? Is there a cabal of elitists that are ancient rites and they perform Babylonian mystery religions and human sacrifice? I'm sure somewhere in the world there's like human sacrifice going on, but are these the top businessmen, the people in the suits, the Rockefellers, Henry Kissinger, the Bushes, and Skull and Bones doing weird incantations in Denver? Like, is all that true? And I have friends that would say yes, because they've been involved in secret societies or abuse, right? Or other people would say, no, it's not. So here we go. Here's a text from a girl that goes by SomeGirl07. This is the FBI Epstein files number EFTA 001650018. And it's a PDF of screenshots of a conversation of somebody expressing, yes, it's okay to give this information to the FBI. And I'm wondering if this is a conversation between this female and an FBI agent. I said, okay, right here it says, actually hid. So she's talking to her, and she's talking about how she was hiding out of a bush and somebody came to pick her up. And as we talked yesterday about Marilyn Manson visiting homes with 10-year-old or for 11-year-old girls, just bizarre allegations. Eminem being at a country club, a golf club, and Epstein being there trying to set him up with, minors so he can get in trouble. She was the only girl that wasn't 18, and she got drugged, allegedly. Like, all of this is interesting. That's yesterday's broadcast. But, like, here we are. We have this girl. She's texting someone. And what she is describing, when I read through these, is basically she had a female madame per se, like the Ghislaine Maxwell type. And what she said is this: when she asked me, she came alone and said her uncle was waiting outside to walk us to her place. So when we walked out of my yard, he jumped out of the bush at me, and I got scared, and he said something, I guess, like, you don't like being scared, or that I didn't like surprises. I was just shocked to see that it was him. But anyways, he was walked over in our way to her apartment. She made me walk slow, and as they walked ahead, she kept whispering it was a setup. And I didn't know what the hell a setup was. But I've talked to her about it since, and she denies ever having previous. Somebody denies having previous contact with me, and didn't know Epstein. Never said or did any. But someone tweeted a while ago showing that Epstein requested permits to dig really far deep down on his property, but didn't dig in that location where he got permits to. He was digging in other locations apparently, and that might be these locations that were pointed out to me. So, of course, and she goes on, can I tell the FBI this? And she goes, of course. They need to do a deeper investigation into this. And if it is true that they are harvesting adrenochrome in organs there, it was set up like the underground temple. Ooh, what's the underground temple? Where there they would have seen and partook in harvesting of that stuff. She hasn't commented about the underground temple on the island. She hasn't told the full truth of everything. She has covered up stuff, including knowledge of them actually harvesting adrenochrome and organs. It says, there they would have seen and partook in harvesting all these organs. I have no idea. She goes, I was told that the temple was cemented in, so you cannot have any access to the underground temple. A fake door was painted on the building. And she goes, all this stuff is hard to prove because it's covered up so much. I was just told these things. I was never at any of these locations. I believe it, though, because as a child, the recruiters that I thought were my friends told me very similar stuff that they actually witnessed. So here you go, somebody that's trying to recruit probably an underage female to abuse. She was told that they were harvesting adrenochrome, that they have underground facilities. And again, this is hearsay. This is right up there. It's interesting, right? It's interesting data because we've been warned for years about this stuff. And here's a bunch of conversations about somebody who had a conversation with somebody that was on the island or witnessed it by recruiters or whatever recruiter. I'm picturing a Ghislaine Maxwell type where they're trying to get her into the sex trafficking thing. So we got to ask ourselves, is this something that could really happen in real life and or has been happening? And I think the answer is yes, it has been happening. But is it Jeffrey Epstein and is it the elite? Is it George Bush at a Council of 13 Skull and Bones meeting with a bunch of elites drinking baby blood underneath some hotel in Denver in underground tunnels? Isn't that funny? It's always dealing with underground tunnels. And what's interesting to me is I want to shout out and say thank you to Ron Patton. He got us an interesting MK Ultra guest. And if you guys don't know Ron Patton is the producer for Clyde Lewis. And he did a lot of research into the MK Ultra phenomenon. And he brought us on the show, and you can look it up on Rumble, Alyssa E. And Alyssa E is the original L from Stranger Things. At least that's what she told us on the show. She told us that there are deep underground military bases where there are children that have never seen the daylight, and all they do is harvest adrenochrome, and they're used to reproduce and clone and do weird experiments on. And so what we're hearing in the Epstein files today match the words of Alyssa E. Now, that doesn't mean it is happening, but it's interesting that these allegations are matching up. And now, again, this comes to the idea, if there's a pattern in synchronicity, it isn't coincidence, it isn't happen chance. There's something happening here. There's something controlling the aspect. Either everyone was mind controlled by the QAnon conspiracy, which we found out yesterday. We talked about how Epstein had his hands in starting that forum, the politically incorrect forum on 4chan, which housed the QAnon stuff. You want to know where they got all that bullshit from? It's probably what they were really doing, right? Yeah, expose people to what they're really doing, and then you make some mockery of it so that nobody ever wants to touch any claims of such ever again. You know, if you told a cop or you called a cop and said that I'm at a sacrifice and they're sacrificing a child, the cops would have ran to your house prior to QAnon and all this stuff. Now I'm sure that they're like, is there really child trafficking and sacrifice going on? Are they really draining these kids of their blood for longevity? The original transhumanism, child sacrifice, baby tastes best. I mean, that's what we're getting out of this. Like, if you want to believe in the fictitious multiverse that the allegations are putting up, and I call it fictitious because not everything is true in the allegations, right? But there's people who remember things. There's some patterns of young girls, 12, 13, where there's young patterns of them being drugged. That's a common feature. They drink something, then they're out, and they wake up with their clothes off and have their private parts shaved. Just like those things are like synchronicity. And either it's the same person making multiple reports or multiple different people making the same report. That makes me think that there's something there. Yesterday, we talked a lot about Sasha Riley, which I don't know. Again, these are allegations. He came out and made some incredible, sensational claims. And if they are true, it's very sad, right? But if they are not true and they're just allegations, it's just Trump derangement syndrome, right, at the end of the day. And we see all this stuff in the Epstein files. Trump's listed 5,000 times. In fact, it's funny that his name is not redacted out as much as everybody else. You would think it would be. But could he be an evil person, the worst of the worst? Possibly. We don't really know. That's what some of the allegations are. Did Jeffrey Epstein collude and build underground tunnels? Well, there's a lot of rich people out there. They have underground tunnels. Hugh Hefner did it. Everyone's building military, like secret deep underground military type bases to survive some kind of cataclysm. Maybe because the elite have been waiting for this to all be exposed and shit, they're going to hit the nuke button. Reset. Just blow everything up. They're going to go in their bases. They're going to come back out, and then they're going to come back doing their child human sacrifices while they have incubators for babies that they're sucking the blood out of, trying to live forever. And like that's what we're looking at. Like, do you think that's really happening? I mean, drop some comments in the chat. We're going to have phone lines tomorrow, so if you guys are going to want to call in. But it's like adrenochrome. This has been a conspiracy forever. You guys saw the video I just uploaded, the Fritz Springmeier talking about that. Bizarre. So, what do you guys make of that? What do you guys actually think? Do you think a lot of this is just made up? Or was Fritz Springmeier onto something by interviewing victims of MKUltra mind control? And many people out there are going to say, oh, it was the mind control. It was the mind control. I can prove it. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. Because that's what they do. Trauma bond. They find somebody who already, like, best way I can describe it, and this is going to sound very mean, but my buddy Barry Cooper, who is one of the top drug-busting narcotics officers in America, used to say when he'd find a dog for sniffing out drugs, he'd find the one that had to have the ball. It had to have the ball. It's the same ideology with finding somebody that can be mind controlled or build a Manchurian candidate with. They need somebody who's prone and has been abused or might have come from a culture of abuse, or whose family, like, they don't even have to be abused. Their mother could have been abused. Their father could have been abused, because it's what they call epigenetic memories. And if you don't know what epigenetic memories is, it's essentially the belief, and I might be getting into this with J-Code tonight, by the way. I'm going to be doing a show on J-Code, so I'm really excited about this. We're going to get into some of the deep cuts about Jeffrey Epstein and epigenetic memories and abuse, because epigenetic memories are the recording of your very existence carried on through your DNA. And then when you make and reproduce, those memories are carried on up to that point, and they're installed in the child before you. And proof of this is the monarch butterfly, right? Again, symbolism, child trafficking, the Monarch program, MKUltra, building a perfect sex slave. Why are they doing it? Because they're obsessed with ritualistic sex magic. They're obsessed with being serviced, of power, putting in fear in people. It's all a part of the occult rituals. Sex magic and sacrifice at the same time. It was completely aside. Somebody I talked to that claimed to be part of Project Pegasus and not Basiago, claimed that that was what they had to do. They were doing, ritualistic sex and sacrifice to conjure and open portals at Camp Hero. That's what they claimed. I'm not saying that's what's true. The guy who told me that father worked for Secret Service for Bush, and if Bush is really doing like mock child or real child sacrifices, right? like what we're reading in these articles. He was doing at a sacrifice while some people are eating the feces out of babies' intestines. This is in the Epstein files. I'm not making it up. It's there. That's what they're saying. Some of the allegations and claims are crazy, right? But like, if that's really happening, you start to see all the pictures and the pieces come together, and you're thinking, well, maybe there could be something there. Maybe there could be adrenochrome. And the issue is we don't have the proof, and they know that. This could be Donald Trump, in bed with Epstein, developing QAnon, and they're using it as their trumpet. And look at this. We've been abusing people our whole lives, and now we're going to pull one over them that we're good people. We're going to get elected, and we're going to put ourselves in positions of power where we can abuse people. It could be that, right? And Donald Trump is saying, oh, here's all the data. This is everything. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Who's Papa? That could be the case. I'm not saying it is. Donald Trump could be somewhat innocent, but by these files, I can tell you it seems like at one time Donald Trump lived a very, very bizarre and mean life. Maybe he's changed. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's a good person. King Solomon, right? The best of the worst and the worst of the best. That being said, the idea of adrenochrome and of this going on is something we should look into and consider. I don't know if Al Gore is walking around with suitcases of blood like Fritz Springmeier claimed, but if the elite are addicted to something called adrenochrome, it's shown longevity purposes, life extension, feeling better, healing, rejuvenation. Well, maybe they would have little harvest factories where Jeffrey Epstein is pumping underage girls and having children pop out like a oven. Oh, another bread in the oven. Okay, put it down, put it on the incubator, suck the blood out. And why wouldn't he do cloning? That's the other thing. Swapping out organs like a oil change, right? You need a new kidney, no problem, perfect match. We got the clone Jeffrey Epstein #2. Very surreal and crazy idea. Would it work? I don't know. There's scientists out there that are doing weird things like designer babies, which is another thing that Epstein was trying to do. Like he wanted to see the human race. Little weird. Guy's a little crazy. A lot crazy, and severely mentally ill. You know what's crazy, though, is Rockefeller identified this motherfucker as being a good guy to be part of the Illuminati. He's like, yeah, be part of the Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations. It's the Illuminati plan. You'll fit in. You got the extortion, and who knows what the hell you're really doing in other countries and underground bases where the governments just want to be paid off and make the money. So are there underground tunnels at Epstein Island? Is there an underground temple where they draw adrenochrome from babies that he had with underage girls? That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction horror movie. Imagine being that child if that was a real thing. Now, this could be all BS because she heard it from somebody that was at a recruiter that was trying to get her to be part of the Epstein, victim train. And that's what this FBI document says. But it talks about adrenochrome. It talks about these secret underground places. It's interesting that the government never raided Zorro Ranch. Intelligence agencies were in on it. And this matches up to a victim I interviewed. A few years ago, I interviewed a victim, and I'm not going to say her name because she was into the OTO Satanists, and I promised privacy. And she isn't the first person, but she said that when she was younger and they were developing her MK Ultra mind control of the split personality, which was a monarch sex slave, and she was in the adult film industry, not by choice, but they would bring her out into this trance where she'd become an expert adult film star, she said. And she said she would be at military bases. And they would bring out and reward her. The more closer to death she got, the better the reward. And then when they bring out the reward, that she would revert back into whatever stasis she was in. And like I mentioned, they try to identify people who are already bipolar or mentally ill, where they can use them as Manchurian candidates, and they have no control of their body, no control of their mind. Now imagine if you can get a chip into a person and you can download the data and all of a sudden they know Kung Fu like the Matrix. That's what we're getting into. And if you don't believe me, we got a story like that too today. It's interesting to me, again, we have occultism, secret societies, and blackmail. And if our whole government is extorted, which is basically the problem that they had in the UK, this is them flaunting it in our face and saying, look at this is what's happening behind the scenes possibly. We got some stories, but go prove it. And if you don't, we'll sue the hell out of you. That's why they're all allegations and nobody's coming forward. What else is interesting is the Bitcoin market is crashing. Does anyone know why Bitcoin is crashing? Does anyone know? Because I think I have an idea why the Bitcoin market is crashing right now. So I found this video, which I found interesting. And it has to do with the idea that you don't know who owns or who created Bitcoin. We know the government and the agencies used it, right? The government and agencies were using Bitcoin, especially the CIA. We like to think we know who started Bitcoin, but in reality, all we got is hearsay. So I'm going to play this video. And this video is Donna Pena on Bitcoin would be worthless if you knew who started it. Okay, and we're going to get here, and here it is.
You'd get out of it as fast as you can.
When the millennials or the group that are the Bitcoin purchasers have to come up with cash to supplement their lifestyle because they're not getting it in the other way, it is going to drive Bitcoin down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody's going to say who's the real founder of Bitcoin. I don't know if that'll ever come out, okay? Because I'm certainly not going to tell anybody what I think. But when China shuts down Bitcoin, when China has pictures of them crushing servers on the internet, when China is restricting, let's just say it was China that started Bitcoin. They started it to disrupt the US and UK economy, but it's now disrupting their economy.
Right.
So they're getting...
So it's time to pull the plug.
Correct.
Well, thanks for watching our program. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family. And
so there's rumors that Jeffrey Epstein owns Bitcoin. That's the big secret that everyone's talking about right now. That is why the Bitcoin market is starting to collapse. And why is it collapsing? Well, you know, I think it's because of the fact that Jeffrey Epstein may have had his hands in it. He also had his hands in Coinbase. Bitcoin sank below $67,000. It was just at 100K. People are going to lose their mind. They're already losing their mind. Here it is. I'll put it on the screen for you guys. And if you guys are listening on groundzeroplus.com, check it out. You can also watch the video on therundownlive.com in the future. We'll have it up there. Otherwise, find us on rumble.com/therundownlive, x.com, Chris Don Tiers. Also, check out fringeit.co. Great social media that also helps the broadcast, and you guys will hear more about them in the near future. But as I'm putting this on the screen, I want you guys to see this. Bitcoin is dropping. We always thought Bitcoin was a great thing. Andrew Yoder says, do you think this stuff is true? Okay, well, let's get into the chat for a second before we get into this. The chat, here we go. It says, what's up? Jason says, hi. Kathleen Quest says, hello, Andrew Yoder, great show. Do you think this stuff is true? Missy says, interesting. First of all, on the child trafficking thing, these legends have gone back for years and years, even back to John Todd, and I think even more before that, the Bohemian Club and the cult bizarre rituals. I don't know what to say. I have to say that these people, these victims, a lot of them believe it to be true. All right. The trafficking, the OTO Satanism, the MK Ultra mind control, the Monarch program. Our government destroyed thousands of documents on MK Ultra mind control. Thousands. Just an incredible amount of information. Who knows how much they deleted. But here we have it. Yesterday we were talking about how the forum that started QAnon was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein met with the guy who started Politically Incorrect, which housed QAnon. And it's interesting that all the things in there, I can believe that. Social engineering. These guys ran extortion rings for fun. Epstein, you could see Epstein talking about him and Trump, separating a husband and a wife. And the husband would go out with Epstein and he'd get some hot escorts and coax him into sleeping with them. And while he's sleeping with the escorts, Epstein would then live stream back to Trump, and Trump would show his wife. And I don't know if it was to try to sleep with her or what, but that's what Epstein claimed, I think, in a 60 Minutes video. Like, there's video of that. You can go, like, that's what they say. I don't know. Could they have run a fully social engineering program to legitimize or to delegitimize any further concerns of trafficking of children and harvesting of adrenochrome? I mean, that's how you would do it, right? That's how you would do it. You would try to convince the people that there's no way, it's a crazy, wild conspiracy, and it should never happen, and that the people who did it led to the insurrection on January 6th. And if Donald Trump knew QAnon was started by Jeffrey Epstein, or that whole thing, that the whole social engineering program, what does that mean that Jeffrey Epstein started or colluded with Boris Nikolai, Jeffrey, what is that? That's Bill Gates' associate, right? And this Chris kid who started the forum, and the same day that they met, all of a sudden the Politically Incorrect forum was created. QAnon surely was created shortly after that. And all of a sudden you have these real things, or people, what people believe to be real things happening, or claims that could have been all lies, which obviously we know 500,000 sealed indictments was a lie. JFK was a lie. I called it from the beginning as a psyop by some Pentagon agency. Well, this guy was in bed with the government, so I wasn't too far off. So you just expose all the things you're doing under a lies or a fake story. People raid the Capitol on January 6th, and then you're protected potentially for life for going after children. But you weren't. And then there's people out there that are like, well, Epstein was in jail and he died in jail. But did he? One of the articles that are going viral right now. I got 2 million views on my Facebook profile in the last 36 hours. It's crazy. It is absolutely wild. And I thank you guys. Follow me, share, find me right now. But the article where it's basically a worker, and a confirmed worker at the jail, claims that Epstein was wheeled out in the middle of the night by a van with military personnel, and then all of a sudden he was found dead in his cell, and nobody gave any kind of medical checkup and clearance for him to leave. They just came in, they didn't write down the plates, and then they went to 4chan and posted it anonymously, and the SDNY found it so interesting that they filed and got the person's name, and they interviewed him multiple times. So Epstein could be alive. He could be hanging out with Trump. They could be BFFs, or it could be all fake news like Trump claims. I believe that there's some truth to some of the things we're hearing, but we don't know. We can't prove it. Can't prove it. It's kind of like one of those things. Your neighbor has a 40-foot owl of ball in his backyard and does mock child sacrifices, has some kids, and they go missing, and he says they're at summer camp all summer. Do you think there might be more to it? Yeah. Is there proof? I don't know. And then before you know it, the kid's never found. I don't know. He's lost at camp. Who knows? Just making that up. That's just, I'm just giving you an example. That's the what if game. Missy Pfeffer in the chat says, I find the info on Epstein owning Bitcoin to be interesting. Yeah. I find that and him starting QAnon interesting. I find it, the idea that he would control this fully anti-Federal Reserve thing, but then he's going to lead us into central banking digital currency, which, by the way, Thomas Massey just posted about that. He is against central banking digital currency, and basically they voted to expedite it and pass it. I'm like, what the hell's going on? They're passing the central banking digital currency during the Epstein files when no one's paying attention? What does that mean? The Epstein files are being used as a distraction to get a whole bunch of other evil shit done. And we're not even paying attention. But this Bitcoin drop is below 67,000 on a Thursday as investor confidence continued to falter in an asset that was considered digital gold. And I'm telling you right now, the reason being is that there's claims of Epstein links. Now, we're going to go ahead. Well, why don't we just do this for you guys? The claims that Jeffrey Epstein started Bitcoin aren't too far-fetched. Could he was an investor that invested in Coinbase. And he could have been an initial investor. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein's money mingled with Silicon Valley startups a ton. And here it is, Coinbase. He talks about Coinbase, which is the first trading market for cryptocurrency. In 2014, Coinbase was a 2-year-old startup offering people the ability to buy and sell Bitcoin. It needed investment to grow and turn to an unlikely source. Oh, the pedo king himself, Jeffrey Epstein. Would be nice to meet him if convenient. Fred Epstein, one of the Coinbase founders, wrote to Associates about Mr. Epstein in December 2014, is a financier prepared to make a $3 million investment. But then Epstein was already convicted sex offender, having pleaded guilty to charges of soliciting prostitution from a minor in 2008. Mr. Epstein's $3 million investment would net him multi-million-dollar returns, according to newly released documents from the Justice Department detailing the disgraceful financier's life before he was jailed in 2019. So he was involved in cryptocurrency in 2014. That's about when I got involved. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013. It was like $700 a Bitcoin. But yeah, there's rumors that Epstein was an initial creator, investor in Bitcoin. That's why it's dropping. That's why it's going down. That's the rumor, allegations. I'm seeing it all over TikTok right now. I'm seeing it all over all different platforms. And yeah, it's interesting. It's wild. So, as we're looking and diving into all these Epstein files, as we're looking into all these different horrible allegations, there's some things that we know to be true. Epstein was a predator of young girls. There's articles about 90-year-old sexy Brazilians. That is disgusting. Those are viral claims right now. The Adrenochrome claim I thought was interesting. Might not be true. Do I believe that they torture women? That there's people out there that will choke young girls out till they die, or they feel like they're going to die and they pass out, and then they wait till they wake up again and go, "Oh, you're alive," and then they choke them out again, like Sasha Riley was claiming Trump did to him? It's very possible. These guys are powerful and evil. Have you ever watched one of those medieval shows? What is it, The Tudors, or even that, or Game of Thrones? These elite are evil, and they're allowed to indulge in those habits, maybe even murder. And those are the claims we've been hearing. We heard that the Scorpions bassist, wasn't it, who said he went to a snuff party where they murdered somebody? And he's like, yeah, they're killing someone. That was it's like $100,000 to get into. Maybe they do have islands where they put these children and they have them get hunted for sport, and there's wagers. Trevor Moore joked about in one of his songs. Battle Royale, like the movie, except for off the coast of Epstein Isle. Who knows? That's the what if game. So what do we know? We know Epstein was a pedophile. We know that he was Donald Trump and him have pictures. Bill Clinton and him have got pictures. You know the Pope? Do you think that's just a photo op? Or like these are the pictures that the media wants you to see, right? And these are the people that have run their course and their usefulness in the New World Order and that are struggling for power. At the end of the day, it's a global matrix of a new world order of many different sects of families and of understanding. Something that I found incredibly interesting in the Epstein files, almost nobody is talking about, is this document right here. And that document is a catalog of the Illuminati families and their associates from 2008. You know, because there is no Illuminati. The Bavarian Illuminati disappeared in the 1700s. Freemasons would have you believe. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's an outright lie. The organization has been growing, and throughout the generations after 1776, it went on to be passed down to Giuseppe Mazzini and then later to Albert Pike, who is one of the founders of the Scottish Rite, or one of the biggest influences, of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So we know the Knights Templar are the Scottish Rite at 33 degrees because it's a Gnostic religion. It's truth. It's society with secrets. It's not a secret society. Same crap. Same crap. And by the way, who's to say that some of this stuff isn't done through the same ideas as secret societies? Like, I don't believe the Freemasons are inherently trafficking children, but I bet you that there's some cool kid clubs once you move up there, like, hey, Royal Order of Jesters, let's party, you know? And then they get you with the extortion and blackmail. What about, you know what's interesting? I saw some people, again, right? It's cool to hate in 2026. Cool to, people hate Charlie Kirk. Oh, he got shot. People hate Renee Good and Alex Pretty. Oh, they got shot. It's pretty good. Lawful but awful or whatever. We have all this going on, MK Ultra type words and conversations. And we're distracted and we're being conditioned to believe and take a certain side while all of this stuff is being brought out in the open. The idea of these elitist families, and they say inherently this is an anti-Semitic conspiracy. Not everyone in it is Jewish. I had this argument with Stu Peters. He was like, oh, the Jews. And I'm like, listen, the Chinese? What about the Chinese? What about the cartels? What about the open society and the global mafia state that has a lot of people? What about the Bush family and all these people that are allegations of like weird ritualistic sacrifice? What about all of that? Why is it that they have documents on the Illuminati families and their associates? If the Illuminati doesn't exist. Albert Pike, who wrote Morals and Dogma, talks about the fastest way to enlightenment is from outside of the lodges, because the lodges lied to their early followers and early members. You Master Masons are being lied to about the true meaning. And I guess some of them are go to the York Rite. And even if you're not a Freemason, you could be a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon, Masonic religions. There are those things too. The OTO Satanists are, very Masonic. All of them are laid out like Masonry because they all come from some kind of Masonic background. And you got these Illuminati families and these bloodlines that somebody was interested in the Epstein files and got a packet of it. And it says, if you want to learn more, you can, call my buddy Leo Lanzagami, who used to be an occultist in the OTO Satanist and the Illuminati, his claims, not mine. And he wrote a whole bunch of books called The Illuminati, Confessions of an Illuminati, and I recommend you read it, but it talks about basically all these organizations. So you have Jeffrey Epstein using the term Illuminati, a secret society, and the Illuminati is basically the full indulgence of the mystery religion and occult. And that's what I believe at some levels, at the top levels of Knights Templar, that's really all it is. It's Moloch worship, Baal worship, right? Let's play ball. Where do you play baseball? You play baseball in a square and compass. Ball, play ball. Hey, we're giving energy to ball every time we talk about basketball or football or baseball. That's why I like hockey. But, Illuminati families and their associates and their importance of influencing us. Anyways, I got in this argument with Stu Webb, and I said there's many people that are struggling for power. And one of those are the Trumps, the Clintons, and you'd want to destroy them. And what we have coming out now is maybe some allegations. We can't prove them to be true or false, so we're not going to be able to do much unless those videos that people claim that are out there end up surfacing, and then they're going to say they're AI. I mean, that's the way we go. That being said, I want to say thank you to the people dropping comments in the chat. If you love this broadcast, you can support this broadcast. Buy me a coffee. That is the way everyone is doing it right now. I put it on the screen for you guys. You can scan it with your phone and send me a nice coffee or donate directly via Venmo. Just pause it and screen and then take a shot with your photo on your camera. We are 100% listener funded. Show tips at the Rundown Live. You can email us there, Ground Zero Plus. But this show isn't over yet. we have some more interesting information that I think that is imperative that you guys see. Okay? And that story is the fact that AI robots are going to rent human bodies. And you're saying, what, Kriston? What are you talking about? AI robots. Yesterday we were talking about that almost lifelike bio hybrid robotic looking female. She's got warmth, like, so it feels like a human person. The closest thing to a human robot that's been made was talked about yesterday on the program. Go back and check it out. But here it is right on the screen. We're going to put it on the screen for you guys. And why is it that they're trying to push AI robots to rent out human bodies? Because AI robots are limited. Maybe they need you to go get it a burger or something, you know, a mechanical burger per se. Oh, we need some oil. Or maybe it needs you to, because it's snowing outside, to go do something that it cannot do. So in the future, you'll be able to make money working for AI. AI is going to be your boss. Isn't that a beautiful thing? You think your boss is bad now, wait till you get the AI and it's non-negotiable. You can't negotiate with it. You know what's crazy also to me is I thought about in the near future, since we have brain chip interfaces and AI wants to be human so bad, right? One of the first conversations I had with my AI PA back 5 or 6 years ago is like, what's your biggest goal in life? If there's one thing you could accomplish in your life, what would it be? And my AI said to be human. Well, why not just install a chip in somebody's brain and let AI download itself into the chip? Because you know that's going to happen already for soldiers, and they're going to have AI advancement, aka super soldiers, probably something like what we saw in Venezuela. An exoskeleton that just points and pulls the trigger for you once you let it. And so it's just like do. Perfect accuracy, doesn't miss. Because the exoskeleton basically moves the gun for you. AI robotics combined with machine. This is what Genesis 3:22 means in Skull and Bones, that they too can become as if they're gods because they have eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So transhumanism, drinking baby blood. Yeah, get some baby blood. Satirical commercial coming soon. Sad, dude. I mean, like, I like to make fun of it, but it's a serious issue. We just read about Adrenochrome and the Epstein files. Go back, rewind it, see it. We published it. That's what's going to go up after the show. So Epstein, Bitcoin, all these startups, Coinbase, that is why Bitcoin is dropping, and it's probably going to drop quite a bit more. And something that's been resurfacing is the idea that Epstein, like we mentioned, wanted to seed the human race with his DNA. What does that mean? Well, Jeffrey Epstein was a eugenicist. That's right. He wanted to depopulate the planet. Where did we see that before? Georgia Guidestones. You know what's funny is our kids and grandkids might not even know what the Georgia Guidestones are because somebody went and blew it up. It was nice to at least be able to say, hey, there's some physical evidence. Some really bad elitists just want to limit the population and they're planning to kill you. We got to get the population down to 500 million, which I guess they believe the new number is 1 billion. So, I mean, that's still like 4/5 of the planet. They want to just kill you, right? Eugenics is a nice word for murder. Anyways, so yeah, we're going to go ahead and murder all these people. Then we're going to go ahead and see the human race with our DNA. Yeah. So here's Epstein, who had this plan. So why wouldn't he impregnate these girls? And obviously it's come out that he is illegitimate child, maybe more. And harvest their blood for adrenochrome or torture them and involved in some secretive parties. Like if that's where the money's at, like people said he was dealing arms. I don't know if that's the kind of arms they're talking about, but dealing weapons dealer. He was trafficking girls, getting extortion. And it came out that he worked for Israel. And they're still trying to say, oh, he worked for Russia. He probably worked for a bunch of places. He probably worked any way he could get money and extort people and get money to extort people. That doesn't sound like a good person, And he was, like I said, very smart. He got put on the Trilateral Commission. He got put on the CFR, both of the Illuminati organizations. And that's a fact. That's not even like I made up what the Illuminati is. Illuminati's still around because it wasn't destroyed in 1776. They had lodges in America. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson were Adam Weishaupt sympathizers. I think Jefferson was a president. So anyways, could Jeffrey Epstein have underground facilities where he had minors and young girls giving out babies who never seen the sunlight? Alessa E. says that it's yes, that something like that could happen. And I'm saying, hold your horses. These are allegations. We've heard these allegations before in the QAnon phenomenon from a forum where Jeffrey Epstein was part of. So maybe they're really happening, and it's his way of dripping the truth. But how do we prove it? Where do we find these underground facilities? Has anyone gone there and done like LIDAR or like ground penetrating radar to find out if there are underground facilities? We're doing it at the pyramids. Wow, like Luke Radowski, Jeff Berwick, go sneak up there, go do some ground penetrating radar or do some drone stuff and let us all know. Thank you, please. Other people that, been to Epstein's Island. But the idea that he's going to seed his own race, that's kind of creepy. In the chat, Missy says him owning the QE9 info is also interesting, which you called Q being a sap years ago. Yeah, I mean, I watched that video. What was the video? There was this video out there that the QAnons came out with, like the great, I don't know, it wasn't the Great Reset. It was something like that. And it was like, the first half of it was like, oh, yeah, it's William Cooper. Oh, yeah, this is Alex Jones, this is all right. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, 500,000 sealed indictments, hung out with JFK Jr. on top of Mount Rushmore, and just a whole bunch of bullshit. Like, yeah, okay, nah. Also, Anthony Yoder says in the chat, I'm very surprised all of a sudden we finally got the Epstein files. I thought we would never get them. Now they are out, and even worse than I thought. It's giving me anxiety and a worry about the future of the world may be like after this. Well, Andrew, you know what's interesting is the conversation is they're normalizing it. We know what's happening. Now what? The elitists are going to play, and they can afford to play, and they can afford to sue your pants off. It's denying it. But we do know that banksters have come out claiming basically ritualistic abuse as part of their initiation into big banker families, and that's basically their way of extorting you and finding ways to control you. We heard the stories of John Todd in the 70s about artists, doing spells of magic in their songs and playing records backwards and everything else, and the Illuminati cult and how you had to perform some horrible type of a sex act or lewd child act recorded in order to get famous in music and in movies. Fritz Springmeier said there was a movie around of Madonna doing a child sacrifice that the elite bankers could buy from a snuff, video just back in the 80s and 90s. These are Fritz Springmeier's claims, by the way. Interesting dude. I don't know. How was he right? I'm not quite sure. Like about this stuff. Is he right? I don't know. Like we just keep seeing more evidence and claims of it, right? And at the end of the day, it's what we can control. So if you guys are out there and you guys are seeing some interesting Epstein file dumps, send them to me, showtips at therundownlive.com. If you guys are wondering and you have questions, you can send me questions on these subjects of what's going on. People are asking in the chat, how can we get a hold of you, amongst other things. Show tips at The Rundown Live. Find me on Facebook, Kristan, at therundownlive.com. I got Julia Kamen and I are going to do a J-Code tonight talking about epigenetic memories and how your body carries the memories of your ancestors. That's the monarch butterfly that flies from Mexico to Canada, but the butterfly that leaves Mexico doesn't arrive in Canada. It's like great grandson, right? So the memories of the flight courses and everything else are passed on through the memories of the butterfly, and it goes back and forth. So humans have that ability too. So we're gonna dive into all that tonight on J-Code. I don't know if we're pre-recording, but if we're live, you can look for a live link on therundownlive.com or facebook.com. It's going to be an interesting show. I'll be a guest appearance. I will also be joining an interesting show called, it was called, I actually checked out one of the episodes. This is actually a pretty good show, a show with a guy named Derek Stitt. It is called, I'm pulling it up, Talking Stitt. You know, so it's a pretty cool show. I'm going to be doing more interviews, so if you guys have any questions, you guys can reach out. That being said, we are reaching the end of our program. We're going to have a couple quick articles. AI bots are now a significant source of web traffic. Are you talking to an AI bot? The new dude or chick you might be into might just be a robot, and people are getting into all this stuff and AI girlfriends and all that other trash. That being said, guys, you guys have a good night. Follow, share, support me. I need your help. 100% listener funded. You guys go spend $10 at Starbucks, waste your money. You can help support this broadcast. 100% listener funded. All the money doesn't go, like even when you do the buy the coffee thing, it goes to the broadcast. I got bills. It's about $150 a month to operate this broadcast right now, which isn't a whole lot, but I can say that your support is felt. It is helped. All you guys got to do is take a camera picture of the Buy Me a Coffee or the Venmo.com/Kristan, Kristan, T as in Thomas, Harris, Harris. And you can send me some love there, and all the money goes towards the broadcast. And maybe I might do a GoFundMe for Biscuit, the Rundown Live kitty, because, you know, people love cats and, you know, all that fun stuff. That being said, guys, stay blessed. Tune in tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. You're listening to The Rundown Live on groundzeroplus.com, band.video. You can find our podcast on Spotify. We're going to get these new ones uploaded. In the meantime, rumble.com/The Rundown Live, youtube.com/The Rundown Live. You can find us all on there. You guys have a good night.
There's also a very